I bought my first house. Mama, we made it. And literally, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And this whole experience has been a lot more emotional than I was ever expecting it to be. Well, if you follow me already, okay, you know that I kind of been MIA off of YouTube for a little minute, and it was really hard for me to get content out because I was going through this home buying process. I was in the process of moving, literally starting a whole new life. And now I'm back, okay? And I just want to talk about it. I really just want to talk about it. This whole process has really brought to light a lot of child, hold on. Oh. Like I was saying, this whole experience has brought up a lot of feelings, a lot of different feelings about independence, adulthood, and who I'm actually becoming. So in December of last year, I was not thinking I would be buying a house, okay? Was not thinking that at all, did not see it coming. But next thing I know, I put in my application January, and I was closing by the end of February. So everything moved really, really quick. The process was super smooth, and it kind of made my experience super condensed, which made it a lot more emotional and difficult than I ever thought it would be, right? Because I wasn't prepared for so many changes so quick. I wasn't even planning for this, all right? It just happened. But I've known and felt for a while that I really needed to get into a new chapter of my life, step into a new phase. I had done a lot of personal growth and healing. I had been in therapy. I had been, you know, working on my channel, putting out content, working on my business, really doing the work of becoming the woman that I knew I wanted to be. And I knew I was outgrowing my old environment, especially my old space. I mean, really, I was outgrowing an entire life, okay? A lot of old friends I couldn't be friends with anymore. I didn't hang out in the same places I used to hang out. I didn't do the things I used to do. You know, I was kind of getting too big for the clothes that I used to wear. And this spilled over into like everything. It's interesting how when you're growing and changing, you aren't expecting so much loss. You know, I experienced a lot of loss that caused a lot of grief, you know, grieving friendships, grieving old lives, grieving old environments. That's not a comfortable experience. But I had practiced a lot of emotional regulation, and I had really formed a relationship with myself to a point where I could process and work through everything I needed to work through. And I think I'm a pretty resilient person. I've always been really resilient. I've always been really self-defined and emotionally independent for the most part. So even though it was hard, leaving my old life, leaving the person that I used to be was really, really hard. I knew that what was coming was so much better than what I was leaving. And I had never had as much responsibility or independence financially or physically in my life. And I'm 32, all right? All of my life, I've always lived with at least one other person. Never just had like a full household to take care of on my own, and it's just me, and I gotta take care of everything. I never had that experience. I felt like I was always a late bloomer in terms of like what I wanted to do with my career, how I wanted to make money, because I was dealing with a lot of personal insecurities, and I was dealing with these mental blockages. So I never really chased what I wanted to chase. I never really, you know, took a risk or put myself out there or did things even though I was scared, until I got to a point where I felt like I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of living my life afraid of new things and new changes, right? And watching other people chase their dreams and get things they want, I started to feel like, why not me? Why can't I have the things that I want? Why can't I be this bold person that steps out on faith, that does the hard thing anyway. Why can't I be that? And also sometimes when you feel like you're a late bloomer, like it comes with a little bit of shame as well. You see other people reaching like milestones that you haven't reached yet. And what I can say about that now is that it's really like no such thing as a late bloomer, okay? Me believing that was just like bullshit, okay? That was bullshit because everybody has their time, you know, and when it's your turn, it's your turn, okay? It is what it is. Your turn may not be the same time as someone else's turn, as your homegirl's turn, right? But eventually, your turn will be there if you want to take advantage of that opportunity. You know, you have to be in a space where you're ready to take advantage of new opportunities, even if you're afraid of them, right? Everybody's life is different. Everybody's timing is different. And by pressuring yourself, overly pressuring yourself and comparing yourself to people only causes stress and shame and all these feelings that we don't need to be feeling. So as my home buying process and everything started to unfold, everything was hitting me all at once. You know, everything just kind of came in like a wrecking ball. I'm gonna be on my own. I have to really take care of myself. I have to lock in on my money. I have to like make sure my money up, not my funny up. And I had already, you know, I had already been responsible and mindful with the money that I was making and saving and all of that type of stuff, you know, which is why I was able to even have an opportunity like home buying. But just to know that like, all I really got is myself to count on, like from this point forward, was very, very uncomfortable and scary. But it wasn't the type of fear where I was like, I can't do this. It was a feeling of, this is scary, but I can do this. You know, there's different types of fear, right? There's the type of fear where it's paralyzing and you're like, I could never do that. I'm never doing that. And then there's the type of fear that's like motivating in a way. I'm scared of this, but I know what I'm capable of. I know what I've already been through. I know I can count on myself. I know I can be prepared for whatever's next, you know? And I took time away from making content because I couldn't balance my creative process with everything logistical that was going on. All I could think about was practicality. I couldn't really create. I couldn't really spend time, too much of my thoughts. I was really trying to emotionally regulate the whole time because a process like home buying is very uncertain, especially when it's your first time doing it. You don't know what the hell going on, you know? And I'm a person, like, I'm really working on my relationship with feeling in control. I've always struggled with just surrender and trusting the process and letting things unfold however they need to. That's always been a huge struggle for me. I'm a girly that's like, I need to know everything. I need to know when, where, how, all that now. But I couldn't do that. Even when I was scared and frustrated, I just had to sit with that. I had to sit with my feelings. I had to just shut up and sit down and just calm myself down through whatever I was feeling. I think a big thing that people struggle with in uncertain times is just sitting with their feelings. If you're frustrated, just letting yourself be frustrated, letting yourself feel that emotion. If you're afraid, just letting yourself sit there and be afraid. If you're sad, letting yourself sit there and be sad. I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, but working on that is literally the best thing you can do for yourself. The emotional aspect of all this was really the most surprising part for me because it's not just about having the money. It was about the emotional weight of independence and analyzing the emotional relationship I did have with my support system. You know, like my mom, my dad, and my brother. I did realize some things about my parents that I never realized before. Some things about my friends I never realized before. Really just the people in your life, when you go through a milestone and you're experiencing something big, it often puts you in a space where you're experiencing different emotional sides of everybody, you know, because people are responding to the changes going on in your life, whether it directly impacts them or not. You know, everybody's going to have a different response to what you're going through, right? There were some things that disappointed me about some of my relationships, and some things that inspired me, some things that comforted me. And just to like reconcile how nuanced a relationship can be and how different life moments trigger different responses in people and why it may do that. I just got like an inside look to people's emotional world that I had never really seen before. And that was really interesting too. And some of it did impact me, some of it gave me grief. It's really hard to explain, but I hope y'all are getting what I'm putting down here. Say that you have a best friend, right? Not saying this was my best friend or nothing like that, just putting this as an example, right? You have a best friend, you're expecting her to be like super excited and involved with what you're, you know, experiencing right now. Say you got this like huge promotion at your job or something like that, and you're expecting her to like celebrate you, but she has like a totally different emotional response. And you're like, hey, I've never seen this before. What the hell is this? Going through that and like realizing things, it's crazy. It's crazy, okay? But I did learn a lot about emotionally how to have my own back. I'm my emotional support system above anybody. Also appreciating the positive kinds of emotional support as well, and really feeling loved and appreciated and valued during those moments. So I'm just now starting to get settled, and I've only like been in my house for about a week now. So I'm getting settled, I'm getting more comfortable. The ice be rumbling at all types of times throughout the day and night. I'm like, girl, okay. I feel really good. I feel really comfortable. I knew that being in my own space would really be something that would be positive for me, just because I'm a person that does a lot of introspection, and what regulates me is like having a space to come to that is always the same. A space where I know what to expect. I know where everything is. My stuff is not missing from the fridge when I want it. Not having remnants of other people's emotional moods or their problems, like in my personal space. I feel like I can breathe, okay? I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I have creative space. I have freedom. Just really space to just lean into who I really want to be. And sometimes you need a container that is stable enough from all angles, stable emotionally, financially, all of those things, to hold you as you undergo even more positive change, or like pivot your career, a headquarters for all of your creative ideas. I feel like I have a real home base now that's not influenced by anybody else's choices, decisions, or problems. What I'm really learning about myself, what I've learned about myself the most, is how to trust myself with big decisions. Trusting myself with things I've never experienced before, things I'm a little afraid of. Trusting myself when I don't know what's next, when I really don't have like full control over an outcome. And I'm realizing I'm a lot more capable than I thought. For years of my life, I was really afraid to have the responsibility of fully holding myself. Now I find myself embracing that and excited about that instead of scared. And the reason I was so afraid of holding myself, I think I'll talk about this in a different video, but like it's a bit layered, but I've been working through those issues in EMDR therapy, and really it was just, I got to the point in my healing where I said, I trust myself now than I ever have. And sometimes being more independent, or even like forcing yourself to be more independent, is what's gonna help you actually grow. Probably grow, you know, further beyond where you ever thought you could grow. And for the young women in their 20s or early 30s who like do have issues with their confidence and trusting themselves, and some of the late bloomers, maybe, you know, life hasn't really panned out like fully on time like you thought it would. You're literally gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay as long as you believe you can be okay. And I'm learning how to have a home within myself, not just physically, you know, not just a physical home, but an emotional home. Knowing that going within is always going to be my saving grace. Knowing that if I can't depend on anything or anybody else, I have me. Literally, as a kid, I never wanted to be an adult. I can remember being little and thinking about being an adult and paying all my own bills and doing everything by myself. I was like, oh my God, that's gonna suck. And I truly believed that up until like maybe like 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago. Like I knew adulthood was going to be the trenches, and you know, like sometimes it is, but it isn't always doomed. Okay, and a lot of it is you have to change your mindset. I used to be a glass half empty girly, and now I'm a glass half full girly, and it shows. Buying a house is one of those milestones that people mainly talk about as a financial achievement, but for me it's really been more of an emotional and personal shift. And what this chapter means for me is, who am I when it's just me? Who am I when I'm not constantly surrounded by people, when I'm not constantly doing something for someone else, when I'm not being of service, when I'm not being useful, when I'm not being everybody's emotional regulator, when I'm not being the mediator? Who am I with all of that other shit stripped away? Who am I creatively? Who am I financially? Who am I mentally? You know, what habits do I keep up with? What do I wake up every day excited to do? For me, the excitement of really closing on a house didn't even really hit me until I was literally at the closing table. Because part of me didn't even believe it was gonna work out well, and part of me was just like, I don't want to celebrate too much. But now that it's all real, it's all finished, I'm here, I'm chilling. This is actually like a really exciting experience, even when everything about the future isn't crystal clear. I'm in a really amazing moment that I'm allowed to celebrate. Sometimes we don't even give ourselves moments to just celebrate and pat ourselves on the back and be proud of something. We're always trying to hustle and bustle and be better people. Like, sometimes you just gotta take a moment. Sometimes life gives you a moment. I'm absolutely excited about all of the new content I will be making and all of the things I'll be getting into. I'm gonna still do my usual style of content, but I am gonna switch things up a little bit. The old way I was doing content was, you know, like, I had something I wanted to talk about, I stuck to it, I got the message across, you know, more of like teaching moments, or, you know, here's how I do XYZ, right? But I kind of want to, you know, like vibe a little. I kind of want to, you know, I kind of want to stretch a little. And it's really like symbolic, because when I was in a space where I felt confined, like I couldn't really do everything I wanted to do, I didn't have the space, or like it wasn't appropriate for me to fully like branch out and make the kind of content I wanted to make in the space I was in, you know. But now I can spread my wings, you know, I can do new things, I can do it differently. I guess you gotta just wait and see what I'm gonna post, because every week it might be something a little bit different. One week I might be talking about, you know, friendship dynamics, and the next week I might be baking some cookies. Okay, bake cookies with me, you feel me? But I say all this to say, that's where I've been, that's what I've been doing all this time as I've been taking a break. And it's really interesting how major life transitions can reveal parts of yourself that you never even knew were there. I know the cornerstone of my channel is self-trust, personal evolution, authenticity, as well as stepping into new versions of yourself. And I could not think of a better fitting event than something like this. So just wanted to do a life update before I get back into my regularly scheduled content. So I guess that's about it. As always, stay gorgeous, and I will see you in the next one.